The first thing Noah Bennett noticed was the mail. Every morning at exactly 9:17 a.m., the mailman stopped. He stopped in front of the old gray house across the street and slid fresh envelopes through the rusted mailbox slot. It happened with such perfect consistency that Noah eventually started checking his own watch against it. 9:17. Every single day. At first, he didn't think much about it. People got mail. That was normal. What wasn't normal was the fact that the owner had vanished. The owner of the house had supposedly vanished almost 3 months earlier. The house belonged to Arthur Reeves, 62 years old, divorced, quiet, kept mostly to himself. According to the police report, Arthur disappeared in late October. He failed to show up for work. His car remained parked in the driveway. His wallet and phone were found inside the kitchen. The back door had been left slightly open. No signs of struggle, no blood, no explanation. The police questioned neighbors for a week, searched nearby alleys and abandoned buildings, then eventually stopped showing up. Chicago had too many disappearances already. One more lonely old man slipping through the cracks barely made the news, but the mail kept coming. Not junk mail either, real letters, packages, groceries, fresh deliveries, every day. Noah noticed it because he worked from home as a freelance video editor, and his desk sat beside the apartment window. At first, the deliveries felt harmless. Strange, sure, but harmless. Until the sounds started. It began on a freezing Thursday night in January, the kind of Chicago cold that crawled through apartment walls and settled inside your bones. Noah was microwaving leftover Chinese food around midnight when he heard it. A thump. Soft, faint, coming from outside. He paused. Another thump. Then the unmistakable sound of footsteps creaking across a wooden floor. Noah slowly turned toward the kitchen window. Arthur's house stood dark and silent beneath the streetlights. But for a second, just 1 second, he thought he saw movement behind the upstairs curtain. He frowned. Probably nothing. An empty house settled in weird ways during winter. Pipes expanded. Wood creaked. Rats got trapped inside walls. Still, something about it bothered him. Enough that he stood there watching the house for almost 2 full minutes. Nothing moved again. The next morning, a grocery delivery appeared on Arthur's porch. 2 brown paper bags. The delivery driver set them down, snapped a confirmation photo, and left. An hour later, the bags were gone. Noah stared from his desk. He never saw anyone open the door. He never saw anyone take them inside. They were simply there one moment, and gone the next. A knot tightened in his stomach. That evening, he mentioned it to Mrs. Delaney, the elderly woman living downstairs in his apartment building. She was smoking beside the entrance. "The Reeves house?" she asked quietly. Noah nodded. "You ever notice people still deliver stuff there?" Mrs. Delaney didn't answer immediately. Instead, she looked across the street toward the house. The wind howled between buildings. Finally, she said, "You hear him yet?" Noah forced a laugh. "Hear who?" "Arthur." The smile disappeared from Noah's face. Mrs. Delaney took another drag from her cigarette. "Sometimes around 2 or 3 in the morning," she whispered. "I hear footsteps in there, sometimes furniture moving." Noah stared at her. "You're serious?" "I know what an empty house sounds like." She exhaled smoke slowly. "And that place ain't empty." A chill spread across his arms despite the heavy coat. "You ever tell the police?" "They stopped caring weeks ago." Noah looked back toward the house. All the windows remained dark, still, watching. That night he barely slept. Every tiny sound from outside snapped his eyes open. Wind rattling garbage cans, snow sliding off rooftops, distant sirens echoing through the city. At 2:13 a.m., he heard it again. Footsteps, slow, dragging, coming from across the street. Noah sat upright in bed. The sound continued. Creak, pause, creak, like someone pacing through the upstairs hallway. His pulse quickened. He climbed out of bed and carefully moved toward the window. Arthur's house stood in darkness beneath falling snow. But this time, Noah definitely saw movement. A shadow crossed the second-floor window. Tall, thin, human. Noah's breath caught in his throat. The shadow stopped, then slowly turned toward the window. Toward him. Even from across the street, Noah felt it staring directly into his apartment. He stumbled backward instinctively. When he looked again, the shadow was gone. The next morning, he convinced himself exhaustion had caused it. Stress, lack of sleep, too much caffeine. That explanation worked until Saturday, because Saturday was when he met the mailman. Noah intentionally waited outside near the sidewalk as the mail truck approached. The mail carrier was a heavy-set man in his 50s named Glenn. "Hey," Noah called casually. "Question for you." Glenn paused beside Arthur's mailbox. "Yeah? You still deliver there?" Glenn shrugged. "Address still active, but the owner's missing." Another shrug. "Not my business." Noah pointed toward the stack of envelopes. "Who are those from?" Glenn hesitated, then he looked strangely uncomfortable. "Most don't got return addresses." A cold sensation crept up Noah's neck. "What?" "Been like that for weeks." Glenn lowered his voice. "Honestly, I almost reported it myself." "Reported what?" Glenn glanced toward the house. "The letters smell weird." Noah blinked. "What kind of weird?" The mailman shifted uneasily. "Sweet. Rotten sweet." Noah stared at the envelopes. For the first time, he noticed faint dark stains near their edges. Not ink, something else. Glenn shoved them through the slot quickly, like he didn't want to touch them longer than necessary. "Anyway," he muttered, returning to the truck. "Have a good one." That night, Noah couldn't stop thinking about the stains, or the smell, or the shadow in the upstairs window. Around midnight, curiosity finally overcame common sense. He grabbed his coat and crossed the street. The neighborhood felt unnaturally quiet beneath fresh snow. Even the traffic sounds from downtown seemed distant tonight. Arthur's house looked worse up close. Peeling paint, dead ivy climbing the brick walls, dark windows reflecting distorted streetlights. Noah climbed the porch steps slowly. The mailbox sat beside the door. Rust coated its edges. Heart pounding, Noah carefully pulled it open. Inside sat 6 envelopes, all plain white, no stamps, no return addresses. And Glenn was right. The smell hit instantly, sweet, rotting, like flowers left too long beside a corpse. Noah recoiled. Then he noticed something else. Every envelope had Arthur's name handwritten in shaky black ink. Arthur Reeves, Arthur Reeves, Arthur Reeves, over and over. A floorboard creaked inside the house. Noah froze. Silence. Then another creak, directly behind the front door. His chest tightened. Someone was standing there. He knew it. He could feel it. Noah backed away slowly from the porch. The house remained silent. Then 3 soft knocks came from the other side of the door. Noah nearly ran back across the street. He locked his apartment door behind him and stood breathing heavily in the kitchen. Maybe Arthur was alive. Maybe he was hiding. Maybe this whole thing had some reasonable explanation. But if Arthur was alive, why hadn't he spoken to anyone? Why stay hidden for months? And who kept sending those letters? At 3:06 a.m., Noah woke to the sound of his phone vibrating. Unknown number. He answered groggily. "Hello?" Static crackled through the speaker. Then breathing, wet, uneven breathing. Noah sat upright instantly. "Hello?" The breathing continued. Then a voice whispered, "Don't let him see you watching." Click. The line died. Noah stared at the phone screen. Unknown number. No callback available. Sleep became impossible after that. By morning, dark circles hung beneath his eyes. He spent hours searching online for information about Arthur Reeves. Most articles repeated the same details from the police report. Missing, no suspects, investigation inactive. But one old neighborhood forum post caught Noah's attention. A comment written 2 weeks earlier. "I still see Arthur at night." No replies followed. The account had since been deleted. That evening, Noah visited a local bar 2 blocks away where Arthur supposedly drank sometimes. The bartender recognized the photo immediately. "Yeah, Art came in every Friday," the bartender said while wiping glasses. "Quiet guy. You know anything strange about him?" The bartender laughed softly. "Depends what you call strange." Noah leaned forward. "He ever mentioned someone bothering him?" The bartender hesitated. "Toward the end, yeah." Noah felt his stomach tighten. What did he say? He thought someone was sending him letters. Noah's blood ran cold. Letters? Creepy ones. The bartender lowered his voice. Said they kept showing up inside his house. Part 3. Noah stared. Inside. Yeah. Art swore he'd lock every door and still wake up with letters sitting on his kitchen table. A pulse hammered in Noah's throat. What was in them? The bartender shook his head. He never showed me. Did he say who sent them? Nope. The bartender stopped wiping the glass, then quietly added, but he started looking terrible after they came. How terrible? Like he stopped sleeping, real paranoid. He glanced toward the window nervously. Kept saying someone was already inside the house. Noah left the bar feeling sick. Snow crunched beneath his shoes as he walked home. Already inside the house. When Arthur disappeared, maybe he hadn't disappeared at all. Maybe something had found him first. That night, Noah forced himself to stay awake. He sat beside the apartment window with lights off, staring at Arthur's house across the street. Hours passed. Nothing moved. At 2:41 a.m., a light flickered on upstairs. Noah's heart nearly stopped. A dim yellow glow appeared behind the second-floor curtains. Someone was in there. Slowly, a figure crossed the room. Tall, thin. Its movements looked wrong somehow, jerky, unnatural, like a puppet learning to walk. Noah grabbed his phone and zoomed the camera toward the window. The figure paused. Then its head snapped toward him instantly. Even from across the street, Noah felt pure terror slam through his chest. The face wasn't visible clearly, but the smile was too wide. Far too wide. The upstairs light shut off abruptly. Darkness swallowed the window again. Noah sat frozen for several seconds. Then his phone buzzed. A text message. Unknown number. It read, "He knows you can see him now." Noah dropped the phone. Panic surged through him. How did someone know he was watching? Another text arrived immediately. "Do not answer the door tonight." The apartment suddenly felt very small, very exposed. Noah locked every window and turned on every light. He barely breathed as hours crawled by. At 4:12 a.m., someone knocked on his apartment door. 3 slow knocks. He froze. Another 3 knocks followed. Then, silence. Noah stared toward the hallway. Every instinct screamed not to move. A voice finally came through the door. Soft. Familiar. "Neighbor?" Noah's stomach dropped. It sounded exactly like Arthur Reeves. "Can you help me?" The voice trembled weakly. "I think I'm hurt." Noah remained motionless. Another knock. "Please." Then something scratched gently against the wood. Noah looked through the peephole. Nothing stood there. Empty hallway. But the scratching continued. Lower now. Near the floor. Like fingernails dragging slowly across the bottom of the door. Noah stumbled backward in horror. The scratching lasted nearly 5 minutes before stopping completely. Morning finally arrived, gray and freezing. Noah hadn't slept at all. When he cautiously opened the apartment door, he found a white envelope lying on the floor outside. No stamp, No address. His hand shook as he picked it up. Inside was a single sheet of paper. 3 words written in black ink. "He let me in." Below the message sat a Polaroid photograph. Arthur Reeves standing inside his kitchen, looking terrified, and behind him, partially hidden in darkness near the hallway, stood someone smiling. Noah nearly vomited. The smiling figure looked distorted. Too tall, arms too long, its face blurred strangely, except for the teeth, the impossibly wide teeth. Noah immediately went to the police. The detective on duty looked exhausted before Noah even finished explaining. "You're saying a missing man is haunting his own house?" "No, I'm saying someone's inside there." The detective rubbed his temples. "You got evidence?" Noah handed over the photograph and letter. The detective studied them quietly. Then his expression shifted slightly. "What?" The detective looked uncomfortable. "This photo. What about it?" "It wasn't taken in Arthur Reeves's kitchen." Noah frowned. "What do you mean?" The detective pointed toward the picture. "That wallpaper belongs to another missing persons case." A cold wave crashed through Noah. "What?" The detective stood and walked toward a filing cabinet. After digging through folders, he returned with another photograph. Noah's stomach dropped instantly. Same wallpaper, same kitchen, different victim. A woman named Linda Carver who vanished 11 years earlier. "No," Noah whispered. The detective nodded grimly. "She disappeared 3 blocks from Arthur's house." Fear crawled through Noah's chest. "How many others?" The detective hesitated too long. "How many?" 7. Noah stared in disbelief. "Over 20 years, the detective said quietly. "People vanish around that neighborhood every few years. No connections, no evidence." He pointed at the smiling figure behind Linda in the old photograph. Same distorted shape, same teeth. Noah's pulse thundered. "What is that thing?" The detective looked genuinely shaken. "We don't know." That night, police finally searched Arthur's house again. 3 officers entered around 8 p.m. while Noah watched nervously from across the street. By 8:17, all 3 officers came back outside, pale, disturbed. One officer vomited beside the porch. Noah rushed over. "What happened?" The detective grabbed his arm tightly. "You stay away from this house." "What did you find?" The detective's face looked gray. "There's nobody inside." "But there's no furniture either." Noah blinked. "What? The entire house is empty." His mouth went dry. "That's impossible. No beds, no tables, no clothes, nothing." The detective stared toward the dark windows. Like nobody ever lived there. Noah's blood turned to ice. He had seen Arthur through those windows. He had heard footsteps. The groceries disappeared. The lights turned on. "How can it be empty?" The detective didn't answer. Instead, he quietly asked, "Did Arthur ever speak to you directly?" Noah hesitated, then nodded. The detective looked deeply unsettled. "That's bad." Before Noah could ask what he meant, a scream erupted from inside the house. Everyone spun toward the front door. One of the officers still inside shouted something unintelligible. Then the lights upstairs flickered on. A shadow moved behind the curtain, tall, smiling, watching them. The detective drew his gun instantly. The front door exploded open. The remaining officer stumbled outside hysterically. "It's in the walls," he screamed. "Jesus Christ, it's in the fucking walls." Then every light in the house shut off simultaneously. Darkness swallowed everything. Silence followed. Complete silence. The detective ordered everyone back immediately. No further search happened that night. Officially, the report blamed faulty wiring and animal infestation for the sounds. Unofficially, every officer refused to enter the house again. 2 days later, Noah tried leaving Chicago. He packed his car before sunrise. He didn't care if it sounded irrational anymore. Something was wrong with that house. Something impossible. As he loaded the final bag into his trunk, he noticed movement across the street. Arthur's front curtain shifted slightly. Someone stood there watching him. Noah quickly got into the driver's seat. His phone buzzed. Unknown number. One new message. You already opened the mailbox. His blood froze. Another message arrived. That means he knows where you live now. Noah started the engine immediately, but before he could drive away, someone knocked gently on the passenger window. Noah turned violently. Arthur Reeves stood beside the car, or something pretending to be Arthur. His skin looked pale gray, eyes sunken and glossy, and his smile too wide, far too wide. Noah screamed and hit the gas. The car shot down the street. In the rearview mirror, Arthur remained standing motionless in the snow, smiling as the distance grew between them. Noah drove for nearly an hour before stopping, hands trembling violently, breathing ragged, finally safe. At least that's what he thought. Then he noticed the envelope sitting on the passenger seat, plain white, no stamp, no address. The smell hit him immediately. Sweet. Rotting sweet. With shaking fingers, Noah opened it. Inside was another photograph. This one showed Noah himself, standing at his apartment window, watching Arthur's house, taken from inside Arthur's upstairs bedroom. On the back of the photo, written in black ink, "Thank you for looking inside." Noah abandoned the car at a gas station and checked into a motel outside the city under a fake name. For 2 days, nothing happened. No calls, no letters, no sightings. The silence almost convinced him he escaped. Then, on the third morning, the motel manager knocked on his door. "You got a package." Noah's stomach dropped instantly. "I didn't order anything." The manager shrugged awkwardly. "No return address." After the manager left, Noah stared at the package for nearly 10 minutes before touching it. Small brown box, no labels besides his fake motel name. Hands shaking, he opened it carefully. Inside sat a house key, old, rust-covered, attached to a tag reading "Home." Beneath the key rested another note. "You left before he could show you the basement." Noah checked out immediately. Weeks passed after that. He moved twice, changed numbers, deleted social media, yet somehow the letters continued finding him. Always plain white envelopes, always smelling faintly sweet and rotten. Sometimes empty, sometimes containing photographs of places he visited earlier that same day, and occasionally, messages. "He misses you. You shouldn't have looked through the mail slot. He's still inside." Months later, Noah finally learned something new. Arthur Reeves' body was discovered, or part of it was. Construction workers renovating an abandoned building 6 miles away found human remains sealed behind a basement wall. Dental records confirmed the identity. Arthur had been dead for at least 3 months before Noah ever saw him standing in those windows, before the footsteps, before the knocking, before the smiling figure appeared upstairs. The detective who informed Noah looked exhausted. "There's something else," he admitted quietly. "What?" The remains were incomplete, large sections missing, especially the face. Noah felt nausea twist his stomach. The detective swallowed hard. "And we found something written on the wall near the body." Noah already knew he didn't want to hear it, but he asked anyway. "What did it say?" The detective hesitated, then slid a photograph across the table. Spray-painted in massive black letters across the concrete wall were 6 words. "He only wears you after you look." The detective never solved the case. Officially, Arthur Reeves became another unsolved Chicago disappearance connected to a possible serial killer. Unofficially, Noah knew better, because Arthur still got mail, even now, every day at 9:17 a.m. And sometimes late at night when Noah lies awake in whatever apartment he currently rents, his phone vibrates with messages from unknown numbers. Most contain only photographs, dark hallways, half-open doors, windows viewed from outside. But last week, a new message arrived. Just 4 words. Simple, cold, terrifying. I found your new house. And attached beneath the text was a photograph taken from outside Noah's bedroom window while he slept.